Welcome into Marketology on the Monday after college football season win totals are released. We're going to get Big Man on campus's opinion. He's a man of many talents, college football being one of them. Big Man, welcome in, buddy.
Hey, Drew. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, man. So you got to look at the college football season win totals released at the South Point by Sportsbook director there, Chris Andrews. What kind of popped into your head when you first looked at the numbers, Big Man?
Well, I think a lot of things. Obviously, always, my mind's always racing about all these teams, but really just kind of looking where, at schedules, you want to obviously look with win totals. Are there a lot of guarantee games? You want to find those teams that have those guarantees, the easy wins, and obviously where these teams, every team's going to have that different schedule. That's very rudimentary and basic, but I don't really think anything. I just try to go through each of them and try to pick out the ones that are strong. And this is a good kind of indication on how well a team will do as far as playoffs are concerned. If they can get to that 11 win range, the 10, 11 win range, they're going to have that shot. Really just trying to get it back into college football. This is the first real start. This is when you can really kind of start to put the pieces together and find some value and really kind of set yourself up for the season. As far as I've made this very clear, this is the time you make money in college sports, college basketball. It's during the summer. This is where you make money in college football. Doing all the deep research now. That way, when all the other people are scrambling late in the season with baseball and their summer vacations and their kids and everything else, you're already well prepared. I've been doing this for about a month. I know you've been involved with it. This is where you make your money, getting your info in now as opposed to waiting. I know there's a lot of other things you could prepare for, but I'm always one that has a ton of time in my hands. So I'm going to look to really kind of take advantage where others aren't.
Big Man, that was well said. It's like laying the foundation to a house. Right now you'll be able to fall
Yeah,
back on a lot of things, and what you see week one, week two, you'll be able to kind of notice if it's a mirage or kind of just go back
sure.
to your last season's notes, what the research you've been doing in the off season. We got Adam Ortega in the live chat saying what's going on. Gio Gonzalez special, Verlander short price by Big Man. That was a nice call. He is a man of many talents. Ken Peacock in here saying, giving a play. What's up, Ken? Guys, if you could hit the like button. Also, feel free to chime in the live chat. Any questions you have, really about anything. We're concentrating on college football season win totals. And I came at Big Man, asked him kind of what caught his eye as far as teams go, and he threw 5 or 6 back at me. I got 1 or 2 to throw out there, and we'll answer some questions. We got a question from Twitter and probably some more on the live chat, so that's kind of the stream for the show. But Big Man, let's start out kind of out west. You shot over the Stanford Cardinals. Looks like they're lined at 8 for a season win total. Returning KJ Costello, Bryce Love, one of the better players in all of college football, 4 of 5 offensive linemen, so should be able to really pound the rock. Big Man, what are your thoughts on the Stanford Cardinals season win total of 8?
I have my concerns about this team. I think a lot of people will go and say, well, big man, they're bringing back KJ Costello. They have David Shaw at head coach, and they're bringing back possibly the best running back in the country. You'd be right. I won't disagree with you anything there. Here's my concern, though, with Stanford. First of all, you're bringing back a defense that last year wasn't particularly good. They had a decent defensive line, but they were 80th against the pass. And you ask yourself, why were they bad against the pass? Because they didn't get any offensive pressure. Or defensive pressure. Now they lose Harrison Phillips, and now you really wonder where the passes are going to come from. You don't have that secondary that you can kind of fall back on to kind of be the bulk of your defense. Most of those guys are gone. You have one guy back, Holder, but other than that, they don't have a particularly good secondary. I wonder about their linebackers. And also, they have a new offensive coordinator. I mean, that's kind of a point to make as well. I'm a little concerned going forward about kind of the other things with Stanford. Keep in mind also pretty tough schedule here. You have one guarantee game here, UC Davis. Other than that, you start the season out against San Diego State, a team that beat you last year. You got to go to UCLA. You got to go to Notre Dame. You got to go to Oregon. You got a lot of tough games. You have to also go to Washington. So this is a tough schedule. I think people will kind of really pile on and say, well, Stanford, they're definitely going to get the 8 wins. But this is a pretty good Pac-12 this year. I think they're going to be hard pressed to get to that point. You don't have a lot of those. They had 2 guarantee games right out of the chute last year. You don't necessarily have that. You have some major concerns on defense. Drew, you know better than me that most of the defenses that have a good secondary, it's caused by the high level defensive line. They don't have the Solomon Thomas. They don't have the Harrison Phillips this year that's going to be able to do that.
No, I love your points, man. And you bring up, the weakness at the defensive line, and that's one of the worst weaknesses to have in college football. A lot of the times last year, they just played a 2-4-5 defense because they were so weak to put the better players out there at the defensive back. So, and also playing in the Pac-12, there's a lot of damn good quarterbacks in the Pac-12 this year.
Yes.
I mean, maybe
there's
not,
a lot of really good quarterbacks.
yeah, for sure. I mean, even
totally
when
right.
you say like Utah's quarterback, the athletic kid, where would you rank him? I mean, you got the Oregon quarterback, Jake Browning. He's about to make his 40th career start. So they're going to be up against it.
Khalil Tate.
Absolutely, man. So I totally agree with you. I mean, to get a season win total of 8, starting off with San Diego State, it's not a gimme. They lost last year. You talked about that one. USC in the beginning of the year, at UCLA, at Cal to end the season, at Washington as well. That's going to be real tough. I agree with you, man. I think 8 is tough. I could see 8 and 4 sure, but yeah, I would lean with you on the under. Looks like we got some chatter in the live chat. Going to give some love here. Caleb Ford asking, "What's up, guys? Pumped for some college football talk. Clemson over 10.5. Auburn over 9." You want to just go right ahead for the Auburn one, big man? What's on your mind with War Eagle?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, Drew, Auburn, another tough schedule here. You look at all these tough games: Bama, Georgia, Mississippi State. You get Washington right out of the gate. All road games, okay? I mean, that's going to be difficult. Keep in mind, though, they might have the best defensive line in the country. I mean, Derek Brown, Marlon Davidson, this is a really good defensive line. And look, I think Gus Malzahn, there's a bit to prove here. I mean, signed another big contract recently. My concern for Auburn is defensively in the secondary. Another team that you wonder about their defensive backfield, you wonder about their linebackers, and the road tests are a concern. Offensively, they'll be fine. I mean, whether it's Stidham or Cam Martin, they have a good offense. They'll move the football. But the question mark for me is defensively, because while they have a good defensive line, I wonder about their other parts, linebackers, secondary. We all know the SEC is built on defense. They have a good defensive line. The question is the rest of their defense any good? I'm still looking into Auburn a bit more. With all those tough road games, I'm not as high on them as maybe others are.
Yeah, you bring up tough schedule, big man. Obviously, I'm an alum of Auburn, so I'm kind of biased towards wanting to bet on them. I usually don't bet on them at all. Being in the SEC West, their permanent opponent is Georgia, who was a national champion in the national championship game last year.
Right.
So they're always going to be in the toughest schedule talk. Not to mention you bring in probably the best team in the Pac-12, play them on a neutral site game in Atlanta. Yeah, there's a ton of Auburn alums in Atlanta. They're going to have more than 50% of the people there. It's still not a home game. Not to mention you throw in Southern Miss at Mississippi State. Some of these games really aren't gimmies. At Georgia,
Texas
and
A&M is A&M's a better team too. Jimbo Fisher in there. I mean, all these games, with the exception of Liberty and Alabama State, are very tough. I mean, right out of the gate, that's a big-time game right away, Drew, because I'm pretty high on Washington. That could be one of those games where if Washington or Auburn could find a way to win that, that's going to be a very good quality win out of conference for late if you need to kind of have a big win on your resume.
Yeah, I mean, if Auburn has a down year, you bring up Gus Malzahn. It's always tough with Auburn because your in-state, your rival is Alabama with Nick Saban there. It's almost like he's 2 down years away from losing his job, and he was a game away from the national championship last year. It's kind of life in the SEC West there, big man.
You're totally right.
Yeah, we have Caleb asking about the Clemson Tigers at 10.5. Do you have any thoughts on Clemson?
Well, look, I mean, they're one of the best teams in the country. I mean, I'm generally not someone that gets involved with betting some of these really high-level teams, especially until we see, kind of how everything's panned out. Because a lot of these kids are, particularly with like an Alabama, they're going to bring back a whole new group of kids, who gets injured and kind of your early training camp stuff. But look, you bring Kelly Bryant back You bring back Renfro, Amari Rogers. There's plenty of options here with this team. Very good defensive line as well, as we know. Them and Auburn might have the two best defensive lines in the country. Not particularly high in the ACC really ever. It's a bad football conference generally for the most part. Florida State will be down, I think. Miami loses a bit. Yeah, I mean, Clemson, you really kind of are grasping for straws to try to find value with them. I'm not as high in getting involved with their win totals or Alabama.
Yeah, and I think they miss Miami. I'm not seeing Miami on their schedule. It looks like they add at Texas A&M the second week of the season, so that's a tough one right there. I kind of agree with you. You know, when you start talking 10.5, 10 plus the hook, or 11 wins, I tend to shy away just because it's college football. A lot can happen. I would lean over, but going back to that kind of philosophy of betting, I stay away from 10.5 and higher as far as laying the wood there.
I mean, look, they should run the table. I mean, that's generally what they should do. They should have ran the table last year though, but didn't. Look, I'll tell you the game that could maybe trip them up. I think South Carolina's much better. That could be a game that could be interesting. But I mean, hypothetically, they should be able to run the table. So if they do that, they should get to 11 wins. I would always say over with Clemson, but as you said, they're one Kelly Bryant injury away from struggling.
Hey, you bring up South Carolina, the USC of the East. What are your thoughts on Will Muschamp, big man? I'm interested in that.
Well, I like Will Muschamp. I like him defensively. Obviously, that's kind of his calling card. Listen, last year they struggled because they lost Debo Samuel. They still went 9-4 though, Drew, which is interesting. I think Debo Samuel is one of the best young playmakers in the country. I mean, he's not really young anymore, but he didn't play last year really. He went out like the second game of the season. He is a really dynamic player. You have Rico Dowdy at running back there, Bentley back at quarterback. I think they're starting to see a little bit come through down in Columbia. It's been kind of a couple down years for their standards, but I think they're going to be pretty good. I like that crew coming back, and I think Samuel's one of the better wide receivers in the country. He is really dynamic. If you could just keep everyone healthy, I mean, that's the big thing with a team like South Carolina, keeping your big playmakers healthy. But I had to be impressed with what they did even after losing him last year. Went to a bowl game, were 9-4, had a pretty good season. I like Muschamp. It's starting to kind of get going there a bit down in South Carolina.
Yeah, big man, I agree with you. I thought he got kind of a bad rap there at Florida. Being one, like you mentioned, the defensive coordinator stuff, probably one of the best defensive coordinators in the nation, goes to Florida, falls on his face a bit. I thought they kind of had a quick trigger with him. But it's nice to see him rebound here at South Carolina. And, he's going to have a great defense. Going up against having to out-recruit Clemson is tough, but he's doing a pretty good job so far. I would look for South Carolina to improve as well. We've mentioned, and Caleb also chiming in, Clemson's schedule sets up nice. No back-to-back road games. That's very important. No Thursday night games, so the Saturday to Saturday, that's Miami. Very important. What's that, big man?
You avoid Miami, like you said also.
Yeah, that's a good one too. Hey, we touched on Washington. We haven't really broke it down though. Auburn's first opponent, week 1. Jake Browning going to make his 40th start as a starting quarterback. As far as season win totals go, the best team in the Pac-12. Any thoughts you want to throw out there with the Huskies, big man?
Yeah, I think this team could get back to the Final Four. They did it 2 years ago. This team might be just as good. You look at Browning, obviously another year, and what is he, 40 starts into his career. Him and Myles Gaskin are fantastic. Great 1-2 combo there. The big question is, can Chico McClatcher be the next big wide receiver there? Dante Pettis was very good. Remember John Ross? He's kind of third in line to be their big-time playmaker on the outside there. I'll tell you what, Drew, they had that secondary a couple years ago with Kevin King and Sidney Jones and those kind of guys. This secondary might be just as good. You have 3 or 4 very good defensive backs in this system. Jojo McIntosh, Taylor Rupp. This is a really good defensive secondary. Question mark is, Drew, is the front 7 going to be able to be as dynamic? They lose Vita Vea, who was a big-time NFL pick, Azim Victor. They lost all sorts of talent, really, in the middle there. They get Stanford at home. They've won 2 straight seasons. I think they're going to be just fine up in Washington this year. They got a lot of obviously the big games at home. I think this could be a team that could get back to the Final Four. They just need to find a way to replace some of that defensive line stuff that they've lost. But if I know anything about Chris Peterson, I know they'll be just fine with that.
Yeah, big man. With Washington, it's an interesting one. 10.5. You got 10 straight games before your bye week. I don't really like that. Starting off with Auburn, neutral site. You're gonna have to go all the way to the state of Georgia for that one. At Oregon, and that third game, September 15th, at Utah, Rice-Eccles Stadium. That one's a tough one. I don't know, man. I kind of lean under with Washington. Jake Browning, he's been solid. I'll give you that. But the upside there, he's not really a high ceiling guy to kind of take over games. I don't know, man. I don't feel real strong about it. I think Oregon's going to be better. Having to go to Autzen, I could see him dropping that one as well. So you got the Auburn. The at Utah seems tough. At Oregon, I haven't done enough research on it, but not involved in it. Looks like there is some under money because it's minus 120 towards the under juice-wise. So it's a tough one there for Washington. Which way you want to go next, big man?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's a high number. I mean, 10.5 is a high number. You really need a perfect season, really, as along those lines. I do think they're better than all the teams you mentioned. I think that big game right up front, Auburn. I mean, that's a big time game for their resume. I mean, generally, if you remember when they went to the Final Four a couple years ago, it was a question mark. Did they have enough in their non-conference to get to the Final Four? That's a big-time schedule game right there. That's a nice scheduling game by Peterson. You're going to get it right out of the gate in Atlanta, like you said. Utah is a tough place to play, but I still think they're better there. I like UCLA as well. I mean, obviously, Chip Kelly coming in. You bring back Devin Modster, Soso Jamabo. Yeah, that's a pretty good football team, but they're going to take a little time to kind of get going there. As far as the team that I'm particularly high on, for one major reason, well, multiple reasons. I do wonder, though, if one thing will hold them back, Michigan. Michigan coming into the season, a lot to be excited about if you're a fan of the blue and yellow. But here's the issue. Is Jim Harbaugh going to hold you back? I mean, this is a guy that should be under the microscope. He has failed for the most part at Michigan. He has a lot of great players, a lot of great recruits every year, and there's always a reason why he's looking up at Ohio State or someone else. They made a total rehaul on offense. You bring in Jim McElwain, you get rid of Tim Drevno, who was an absolute dreadful hire. Tim Drevno was the dreadful Drevno last year. He couldn't get that offense moving whatsoever. They had a major issue at quarterback, but have no fear, this year might be different. I'm, Drew, incredibly high on Patterson. I was incredibly high on him at Ole Miss. I'm incredibly high on him in this system. They need to let him be a quarterback, let him do what he does. You finally have a high-level quarterback. You're not dealing with Wilton Spade or Jake Rudock or Devin Gardner. This is a real-life quarterback that can move the football. Okay, I mean, let's not screw around. Only Jim Harbaugh could screw around and ruin this. You obviously also have Dylan McCaffrey, Brandon Peters. All those two of those can sit back and just watch. They have some good skill position players. You bring back Chris Evans and Higdon in the backfield. And I'm going to come out and say it, Drew. They might have the best defense in the country. Great secondary. Rashawn Gary and Chris Winovich up front, really good. Devin Bush is an All-American at linebacker. This is a really good football team. I think they have the potential to be the best team he's had. The question is he going to be able to get it done? We wonder, is Jim Harbaugh on the chopping block? I think after this year, if he doesn't prove anything, he could be on his way out. I have to wonder how you can continue to justify Jim Harbaugh there if he can't get the job done. You look at their schedule. Tough game right out of the chute in South Bend. But other than that, you get Wisconsin at home. You get Penn State at home. It's a tough schedule, but it's time to put up or shut up if you're Jim Harbaugh.
No, that's a good breakdown, big man. I mean, yeah, you got to go at Michigan State. That's going to be a tough one. But you're right, and at Ohio State. But other than that, an improved Maryland team, but you do get them at home, Nebraska at home. That first one's going to be Notre Dame in South Bend. Can they go in and win that with a season win total of 9? Though I'll tell you that means you got to go 10-2. You're bringing in a new quarterback. And big man, I have a question for you. Quarterback transfers in college football. A lot of people pretty high on him. You know, you bring up the Russell Wilsons of the world talking about having success when in that first year transferring. Although there's a lot of times they don't. You know, you don't get a lot of preparation time, you know, years in the system, learning the system. So does that scare you at all with Shea Patterson, or you think he's kind of, I guess you could say, wise enough to make the move, learn the system, and kind of lead him to a 10-win season, which is what will
I
take to
mean,
cash this over ticket?
I think he's got to be chomping at the bit to get out there. I mean, it was a complete mess at Ole Miss, the Hugh Freeze scandal. Um, Listen, if it were my decision on where I would go to play football in this country if I was a high level football player, it would probably be Michigan. I think it's a perfect place to play football. So much storied, history there. This kid has some potential to me to be better than Johnny Manziel. I truly believe that. I think he is that good. I think he's chomping at the bit, Drew, to get out there and play. He's going to have plenty of time. He came in a long time ago. He went through spring. I went through kind of every kind of hurdle. If he could just stay healthy, you're going to have some decent weapons there. But remember, Shea Patterson can make plays with his legs as well. This is the most dynamic quarterback they have had there since, Tom Brady, probably. I mean, seriously, go through their quarterbacks. Who have they had recently that's any good? I can't really remember anybody.
Yeah.
Chad Henne?
No, I mean, in Tom Brady in college, you know, he kind of excelled in the NFL. So that's a good point, man. We got some stuff going on in the live chat. Capo saying what's up to both of us. What's up, man? Caleb, talking about Locker, meant Browning. That was a good one. So two good questions here I want to get your opinion on, big man, and also ask you to do a little impression. But you touched on UCLA. Is Chip Kelly going to turn things or going to get things rolling at UCLA from Paco? What are your thoughts, man? How do you think the Bruins will be this year?
I think they'll be fine. I don't know how good they'll be this year, but they're going to be a good football team. Chip Kelly's meant to be in college. I mean, it's just how it is.
Mm-hmm.
He's a dynamic coach. I mean, he just is. And out in that Pac-12, I don't know that there's a better marriage for him. When I saw him make that decision, I was happy because I want to like Chip Kelly. He's destroyed my football team, but all's forgiven because the Eagles won the Super Bowl. So I don't have any ill will against Chip Kelly. Did he put them in a bad position? Yes. But I'm fine that he's back where he should be. He's meant to be in college. He's a completely dynamic football mind. He's going to have a pretty good quarterback there with Modester. I think they'll be just fine. I don't know about this year, but I think long term they're a really good football team that, if you're any Pac-12 team, you don't want to see him back around. I don't think anyone wants to see Chip Kelly offensively in that conference. He's going to be real good. Question is, I don't know if it'll be right away.
BMC couldn't have left him in that bad of a position. They won the Super Bowl, 2 or 3 years after he left?
Yeah, but keep in mind, you have to remember, he literally traded away all the talent or released them for absolutely nothing in return. He got rid of Deshaun Jackson, LaShawn McCoy, Jeremy Maclin, all with little or nothing in return due to his issues with them off the field. There was nothing correct that he did while he was with the Eagles. He really put them in a poor bind. Luckily, Howard Rosen was able to rescue it. And that's why I said, look, at the end of the day, I have no ill will against Chip Kelly, but he put the Eagles in a really bad position. He's meant to be in college. I think it's a great match for him. He'll do a hell of a job recruiting. He'll probably steal plenty of USC people that would probably go to USC. They'll probably go to Cal Los Angeles now because people want to play with Chip Kelly.
Yeah, I think so too. I think he can get turned around. Year one, it's always a tough one, but year 2, 3, I like their outlook as well. We got Caleb Ford asking, another one that's interesting to him is LSU at 7. Big man, I was going to ask you your thoughts at LSU, and if you could possibly light us with the Ed Orgeron impression.
All right. Well, Drew, we're excited down in LSU for our big football team this year here in Baton Rouge. We had plenty of Cajun jambalaya all in the off season. We had a good rest, but we're coming back with a new quarterback, Justin McMillan, a pro-style quarterback, a Texas State champion. That's what we do a lot of our recruiting. Keep in mind, they make a real good chicken on a stick there, Drew. Justin comes in highly recruited. He's kind of one of those, running quarterbacks. He's going to do a nice job for us. We're excited about our defense as always. We got a good secondary. We got a good front line. and we're excited about our position players. We're all happy down here in Baton Rouge. We're going to get plenty of good food. My wife cooks up a great meal for us every night as a football team. We're excited here in Baton Rouge. I would tell you to go over the posted total, Drew. It's all about Go Tigers here in Baton Rouge.
All right, so Coach, thank you. And you like the over of 7. And I'll tell you, playing in the SEC West, you have a heavy recruiting area in and around Texas. Your first game, Coach, is against Miami. What are you thinking about the Hurricanes week 1?
Well, they're a good football team as always. Luckily, we don't have to go down to the glitz and glam of South Beach. I don't have to worry about my players. But I tell you what, Drew, you look at the first couple games. We got Southeast Louisiana. Is Bobby Boucher on that team? I don't know. Sounds like a Waterboy movie. We also got Louisiana Tech. As long as I know, no more Kenneth Dixon on Louisiana Tech. That'll be a couple of wins for us. But you're right. We got a big, tough schedule as always. We got to go to Ross as well. We get Ross, so we should get 3 wins right out of the gate there. But hey, we're excited. I think we're going to go 12-0, Drew.
All right, big man. That was awesome. Thank you for that. Guys, please hit the like button if you're liking Big Man on Campus's impression of Coach O. That was good. Thank you, big man. On to West Virginia. I don't have much on West Virginia. I've always find them interesting to bet. Big 12 team with a lot of travel. So I always try to take advantage of that. Never really have had much success with it. Looks like a good timed bye week, middle of the season, starting off with an SEC team with Tennessee. Big man, looks like the Mountaineers are lined at 7, little juice towards the under. You agreeing with the market? You like them under, or you like the Mountaineers over?
No, I'm very high on them this year. I like them a lot. I think offensively they might be one of the best offenses in the country. I wonder. Look, for me, I don't when I deal with a Big 12 team, I don't really look at their defense. I mean, they don't play defense in this conference. This is how it is, and they're going to struggle. I mean, you lose your 2 best linebackers to ACL injuries. Dana Holgerson's got some question marks there, but offensively, this team is going to be very good. Obviously, Will Greer's back. Seals is back. Gary Jennings is back. You have a very good offensive line. It wouldn't surprise me if they're top 5 in points per game this year. This is really a great offense. Back to one of their better offenses when they had, guys like, some of the quarterbacks they've had there over the years.
Pat White.
Guys like, yeah, sure. Geno Smith, a couple of those guys. They had Kevin White at receiver. Clint Trickett was quarterback there at one point. They had some really good football players on offense there. This is a great offense, great offensive line. Question mark is going to be defense, but I mean, does anyone have a good defense in this conference? I think that last game of the season, right around Thanksgiving, is going to be the big one against Oklahoma. Luckily, they get that one at home. That's a big time football game for the Mountaineers. This might be Holgerson's best team. I think it sure is from an offensive perspective.
Yeah, Will Grier with 3,500 passing yards last year. He's also married with a couple kids, still in college. Anyway, we got Navy midshipmen. I know you're big on the military schools, big man. I find this first game at Hawaii, September 1st, very fascinating. We got it's an 11 o'clock Eastern start. Know that's fun late at night. It's just an interesting handicap on if Hawaii, with all the extra preparation time, can stop Navy. We saw last year FAU really have trouble even with the extended preparation. Navy, it's an interesting one. You know them a lot better than me. I think the AAC is a pretty good football conference, underrated year after year. But big man, what are your thoughts on the midshipmen?
I'm not too high on the midshipmen this year. They're going to have a big rebuild project. You mentioned that game right out of the chute at Hawaii. That's a tough schedule. If you're, any team, you're going out to the Big Island. It probably will be a decent trip though, just because Niumatalolo is Hawaiian. But you look at what they're going to do. I mean, Malcolm Perry's their new quarterback. They lost a lot last year, Drew, on both sides of the football. You lose both your tailbacks. You lose your best wide receiver. You also lose a lot of really big-time leaders on defense. DJ Palmore, Tyrus Wooten. You lost a lot of good players on defense. You also mentioned, Drew, this conference. This is a good football conference. There's no Eastern Carolina or UConn on this schedule, so you don't have any easy wins there. Temple, Houston, Central Florida, and Memphis are all better than Navy. Tulane has improved. and all of. I think the one caveat though is a lot of their tough games are at home, but the Naval Academy is going to struggle. I mean, they're really Malcolm Perry away from being a 3 or 4 win football team. Frankly, I think they're going to struggle to be a bowl team this year. You have a lot of kind of new people they're plugging in here on defense and on offense. Malcolm Perry is a small kid. He can get injured easily. He's good. He's very solid. But in my opinion, I'd prefer you put AB in at quarterback and leave Perry in as your running back. I think those two could be quite dynamic. AB can throw the football as well, but this is going to be a bit of a rebuild project. I will go out and say I think this is probably Niumatalolo's weakest team in many years, and it starts right out of the gate in a tough game, body clock wise, kind of readjusting after the fact. But if anyone's going to be able to do it, it'd be the Naval Academy. They are obviously no strangers to adverse situations. This is a tough one though.
Yeah, I don't like him at all that week 2 game because even if they take it to Hawaii, they got to travel all the way back to the East Coast. Normal week preparation for Memphis, who's a really good Memphis team this year. They got at UCF, like you mentioned, at Tulane. Tulane's going to be better as well. Still got to play Houston and Notre Dame there on that schedule. You're right, man. This is a tough, tough schedule in the AAC, which is year after year underrated. I don't know why they don't get more pub. Any other teams you want to throw out there, big man?
No, I think we went over a lot of good ones here. Obviously, I'm quite excited for the season. I've already put much time in here, so yeah, I'm excited for it, man. Looking forward to it.
All right. What about a team I wanted to talk about? The FAU Owls, lined at 9. Do you have any opinion on them?
Um,
I'll just
I might be I might be the one on the outs here. I don't know that I necessarily see it with them. I think 9 is quite ridiculous, frankly. Um, when you give them a level at 9, you're basically saying that they're a top 30 team in the country. That's a bit of a stretch, man. Really. I mean, I know Lane Kiffin had a great season last year. I know they won 11 games last year, but most of them were against poor opponents. None of which, as far as their losses, I mean, every time they stepped up in competition, for the most part, they lost. And I know you could say, well, they were early in the season, but you lost your quarterback, okay? You lost some players on defense. You lost your best receiver, and you're bringing in a quarterback who was out last year due to a blood clot. Keep in mind, DeAndre Johnson has had off-the-field problems. He was at East Mississippi Community College for a year or two under that coach. If you're familiar with Last Chance U, listen, he's a very talented player, but he's had a lot of things he's had to grow up with over the last couple of years, plus had some health issues as well. To put your team in the hands of him is a bit of a concern. Plus, you lose some defensive players. They'll be fine defensively, and they have a good running back. But to say that they could fulfill the same thing as last year, Middle Tennessee's a better football team. Brent Stockstill's back. You'll have some teams in this conference, West Kentucky, La Tech, all of which, FIU, all these teams are going to be gunning for Lane Kiffin. Plus, the book is out on him now, frankly. I'm not as high. And to put them at 9, come on. I mean, that's like saying they're a top 30 team. I'm not ready to say that.
Yeah, no, I mean, we all remember our friend Gabe Marinsky picked him over, I believe it was 4.5 season win totals last year. You touched on it. I mean, the book's out on him. That was last year. This is this year. That 4 turns into 9 now. And when you go down their schedule, big man, at Oklahoma to start it, obviously up against it there. Come back home against Air Force. Yeah, Air Force might not be, projected that well this season, but we saw how they struggled against Navy last year early in the season.
And Air Force is going to give you a dynamic offense right after you probably lose by double digits to Oklahoma. So you get that, then you got to go back home and face a dynamic offense that's hard to prepare for. You beat Bethune-Cookman, okay? Then you get, I know you're going to bring up UCF. Mm-hmm. Very tough there. Then you got to go to Middle Tennessee State. Old Dominion under Bobby Wilder's always a good football team. Marshall, I like what they're doing. With Doc Holliday, they've really improved over the last season, bringing in some JC guys. You got La Tech, you got West Kentucky, North Texas under Seth Luttrell's improved. I think 9 is an absolutely laughable number for this team. That is absolutely pathetic that they put out 9. I think they're a 7-win team at most. They'll go to a bowl game, but 9? Come on, man.
I love it. That's why I wanted to bring this up. 9 is just too high for me. I mean, you go down, yeah, they're going to lose to Oklahoma. I bet they lose at UCF. That's already 10 wins right there. And it's one of those schedules, big man, where you go down the line and you can't pick the game, but that at Marshall, I could see that being a loss. At FIU, what Butch Davis is doing, that could be a loss as well. At MTSU, the Murfreesboro trip, that's the back-to-back road games right there. That one's going to be tough. And at North Texas, Seth Luttrell, I mean, that program is just going way up. Western Kentucky, as far as CUSA goes, one of the better teams year in, year out. So I'm with you, man. I like this under. As of right now, that's the one that jumped out at me from the South Point numbers. I just think the Owls, you get to bet against an outlier performance, last year's 10-win season. I like doing that. So that's kind of my highest play is FAU under 9 for me. But
yeah, I really like it. And you got to remember last year, Mike Sanford at West Kentucky, they were a bit down. They'll be better. La Tech under Skip Holtz, they'll be better. That's a real tough schedule, man, that FAU has. And to put that at 9, like I said, it's just a massive overreaction to what they did last year. It's a different team, okay? And you're dealing with a quarterback that, frankly, isn't very dependable. Listen, I'm all about giving him second chances. Seems like a good kid. Seems like he's fixed some of the issues that he's had, but he's also coming off a health problem. That's a lot to put on your quarterback who's been through so many different situations. I mean, how many different situations has he been over the last 3 years? He's at Florida State, then he goes to EMCCU, and then he's back at FAU, and he had to sit out a year. Just too much for a young kid to handle. I'm all in on it with you as well.
All right, we're both liking the Owls under. Big man with a lot of good information for college football season win totals. Anything else you want to throw out there, big man, before you shut this down?
No, really looking forward, Drew, to the rest of the summer and kind of really getting in. I mean, it'll be here before we know it. Obviously, summer just kind of getting going today, the unofficial start. But this is where you got to put in your time, your work. Do the work now as opposed to waiting. Summer can go quick. Before you know it, it's the All-Star break, and then it's late August, and you're scrambling to get info. You move on these numbers now. Some of the gems you just put out are worth it in itself. Everyone have a great rest of their Memorial Day.
All right, we got Joe, Tomar, Osaman. Who else we got in here? Caleb. Special thanks to all you guys for chiming in. Adam, what's up, man? Ken. Guys, if you could hit the like button. And me and Big Man, we're both on the round table. We'll be throwing in some college football throughout the summer. We'll have them back on here, check in with the season win totals. Also, talk college football all over the place, guys. But yeah, appreciate you watching. If you could hit the like button, that would help. And yeah, we'll see you next Monday, same time, same place. Thanks, everyone.